Oh, do you want to slate it?
No,
You thought for sure we were going to have like
Just
full
really
on.
kidding.
My favorite thing is probably the most recent usage of the slate when the kid thought he broke it.
Oh, yeah, with TKB.
Yes.
That was Justin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Little
Justin.
kid.
Oh, I broke it.
Little kid was sure to slate it because it's always fun to let the kid be interactive with it. And he goes, I broke it.
Yeah.
Because it slid a little bit.
Well, I have a screw missing in it.
Yeah.
So, like, the little tongue
Oh,
comes.
you set him up to fail.
I didn't mean to. It wasn't
Yeah.
intentional.
It was completely inadvertent, but it was cute. It was hilarious.
It was
I got so tickled watching that back because I wasn't privy to the interviews. I was doing B-roll.
Yeah.
So I missed all the interview bits. And when I saw that happen, I was
See you,
like,
Jennifer.
no, we're going to draw attention to you exiting your facility.
Welcome to Faith and Frames.
I don't actually know what ASMR stands for.
I don't either, but back in the day before I started growing my actual YouTube channel, I posted a couple of ASMR videos
On what channel?
on YouTube thinking they'd go viral.
Same channel?
No. I'll never tell you the channel name, but
So are they still out there?
oh, they're out there.
Is your name attached to these videos?
Nope. Nope.
So I may have even watched these videos.
You may
and I
have.
didn't realize
You
Garrett
didn't
was
realize
the
that
creator.
it was my wife typing on a keyboard
Interesting.
or my wife writing in a journal.
Wow.
Hot Asian wife types on mechanical keyboard.
Does that sound different than anybody else? Interesting.
Yeah, you'll never know. You'll never know.
Okay, so
Good morning
good morning. Welcome back to Faith in Frames.
or afternoon, wherever you're at.
Wherever you find yourself in life.
Mm-hmm.
We are at Blue Mountain Studio,
Here in downtown G Vegas,
downtown G Vegas.
Greeneville, Tennessee.
Continuing our framed series is what I'm going to just loosely dub it. Sorry, I didn't
like
consult the board, but we're going to call it the frame
Hang on,
series.
let me ask them real quick. Yep, board approves.
All right, sweet. Got the thumbs up.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have another local photographer, Miss Bonnie.
Hello.
Good morning, Miss Bonnie.
Good morning.
It's great to be here. Thanks. Thanks
glad
for
to have
asking
you.
me. Yeah.
Glad to have you here at Blue Mountain.
Listen, we talked about it with Jennifer. One of our favorite things, because it's probably one of the most difficult things, is to let someone figure out who's behind the camera. Because I can tell you one thing, I am way more comfortable behind the camera than I am in front of it, you know? And so, but I think it's really important because it's funny, and unless you've never searched for like a photo of yourself to use for something, like
If
maybe
you've ever Googled yourself.
or if you've never needed like a good profile picture or needed to submit it for whatever reason, you're like, I don't have any good photos of myself.
Yeah.
It's twofold, right? Like we're picky about the way we look.
Yep.
Because we do it for a living, right?
Sounds like we're pretty vain.
Two, we end up taking photos a lot more frequently than we ever have photos taken of us.
Very true.
Absolutely.
So this is the goal of this frame series is to let people know who's behind the camera. You know, let some people in on the person on that side.
Behind the lens.
Behind the lens. Hey, that's a pretty good name too.
Behind
Dang.
the lens.
I don't
I feel
know.
like that's already been taken.
Behind the lens.
It sounds like it would already be taken.
Well, we're just going to keep going with the frame series.
I like
then.
the frame series for all of our faithers and framers out there.
But first, let's thank our sponsor.
Sponsor for today's episode of Faith and Frames is none other than Blue Mountain Studio here in beautiful downtown Greeneville, Tennessee. Blue Mountain Studio is what I like to describe as a premier destination boudoir location. Jennifer, thank you for donating the space today for this episode of Faith and Frames. Folks, if you're looking to regain some confidence in the body that you're in, come on down and see Miss Jennifer at Blue Mountain Studio, Liberty Free Will Baptist Congregation. Sign up today.
Might as well.
Might as well. Thank you again, Jennifer, for sponsoring this episode. Meat and taters, Jared. Get us to the meat and taters.
Yeah. So with this frame series, it's always intriguing for me to find out how everybody's journey is always different, right? So how did you get into photography? What's that journey look like?
All right. So ever since I was in high school, I was like the documentarian for the friends.
Okay.
Loved it. I've got like tons of photo albums, like the little slide in the picture photo albums.
Yes.
Had a little flip up camera, the flash flipped up. You know.
Nice.
Nothing fancy. I never took any classes. I just loved the idea of documenting life, and even like the little details of our days and stuff. And also always had a love for art. So I went to school for art education, and I have a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts in painting.
Very
Ooh,
cool.
And
didn't know that.
Art education degree.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
So I started out at UCF in Central Florida, in Orlando.
Go Horns.
Because you're from Florida, we just learned off camera.
Yeah.
Yes, I am from Florida. Orlando is about 3 hours away from where I grew up, so it was great. Far enough to be away.
Right.
Close enough to come home.
Sure.
Yes.
Loved my time there, but also fell in love with a guy back home. So moved back home and finished school at FAU,
Ah,
Florida
nice. The
Atlantic
Owls.
University. The Owls.
Yeah.
And in between that time, we got married, started having babies. So I actually finished my last semester of school with a 6-month-old.
Wow.
I did my student teaching.
Props to you.
Yeah, congrats.
With my babe, and with much help from my husband and my mom.
Absolutely. Takes a village.
Yes. And so life kind of threw me into being a mom more than ever being a painter or a teacher. And obviously being a mom too made me bring out the camera again.
Yep.
So I needed to do something creative that was more instant.
Yes.
And this was still with film.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't that instant.
There we go.
Not at all. But more
way-
instant than painting.
Way more instant than painting.
Now you're speaking my language.
I didn't have the time to like set up the easel and get everything
Right.
out, and during nap time or something. So painting went out the door.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And film was in.
The Lord allowed me to stay home with my babies, so I didn't have to go into teaching right away or do any of that.
Yep.
So camera came out,
Nice.
and
What was it? Do you remember the first one you had?
it was a Nikon.
Nice.
I don't remember what it was, but it was film.
Nice.
And I knew really nothing about it.
Right.
It was always on auto.
Yep.
And
I'm going to guess an FM2.
I have it at
possible.
home.
That's my guess.
Oh, she still
But
got it.
I do.
Got to get that thing out of the closet.
I do.
Get that bad boy out.
Yeah.
But I just loved. So I even loved scrapbooking. So
Nice.
like
Yep.
my
Yep.
art, just trying to do something creative. I would get my film developed at Costco.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of made a goal with myself to scrapbook before I could get another roll developed, I had to scrapbook that.
Yeah.
The current roll.
Nice.
So my son is 20. So this was 20 years ago.
Nice.
And then, so this was all still in Florida when we lived in Florida. Moved to Tennessee, super lonely.
Right.
Like we moved away from our family.
Yeah.
We lived out in Mossheim for a while. And
Moshim.
yeah, well, that's what I said when I first moved in. And they're like, "You're not from here." Are
That's what
you?"
everybody says when they move in.
Nope. So had more babies, had my camera out more and more.
Yep.
And that was just my creative outlet.
Right.
Eventually moved into digital,
Nice.
which was crazy. I don't remember that first digital camera either. So sorry.
Oh, no. Was it also a Nikon?
It was.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Are you guys Canon guys?
I am not brand loyal.
Yeah. Garrett dates them all.
I date them all.
So the way that I fell into Nikon was my husband bought me my first digital camera.
Yep.
And he got advice from a friend of his that was a huge Nikon guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's how it all worked out.
Right.
And I've never tried anything else.
Yeah.
So
There's something to be said for that, though.
Yeah, you're probably a master of that
Well, so
tool.
I think it's difficult once specifically if you start with something and you learn something, you learn these menus, you learn this camera, you're also going to start to buy glass.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you start to look in, like, if for whatever reason, if you get a wild hair and you think about switching cameras, you're like, ooh, that's going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
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 I've got
And
all
you wind
this-
up like me.
I don't remember the
There's-
Nikon mount, but you've got all this Nikon mount glass.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of 35 millimeter. That's my fave. It's on all the time.
Ah, okay.
So I don't have a whole lot of other stuff. I don't have a whole lot of gear, but
Well, you don't need it if you've mastered what you've got.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm also intimidated to learn new things. So
True. See,
I'm
I'm
not
creature
a
of
good-
habit.
Yeah.
I am. I'm
Very
not
much.
a good learner. So
so.
I don't
But
know, I've
actually,
got a couple of degrees. I would beg to differ.
yeah, but you learned photography.
I think because I don't feel like I have the time.
yeah.
So
Well, you learned photography, and it sounds like for the most part you were were you kind of self-taught in that
I
particular?
was, yeah. So I mean, I went to school for art, so
Yep.
learned like the basics of art and composition
Yeah.
and
Right.
Yeah.
color theory and all that kind of stuff. But the photography aspect, I've never taken a photography class.
Wow.
The exposure triangle was new to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you had fundamentals because all those things do translate.
Oh, yeah.
So
Colors are still
Yeah,
colors.
color theory specifically
Composition,
is wildly translatable.
still composition.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just a matter of learning how to manipulate that
Yeah.
exposure triangle, which it truly can be daunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of confusing at first.
so the first digital camera that Dave, that's my husband, bought me.
Shout out,
I was
Dave.
like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh, this is too nice and too expensive to keep it on just
Yeah.
auto.
Yeah.
So I found like a moms and cameras class.
Ah, there you go. Some courses.
Yeah, followed somebody online that I loved her work, and it was more documentary style, and
Right.
it was what I loved. And so I went to Chattanooga for a weekend and did like a little class with her, and it was all like just newbies trying to figure out their cameras.
Yes.
So she taught us all the exposure triangle, and
Did you go straight to manual there? Or did you go
So-
after priority?
we aperture priority.
Nice.
That is the easiest step.
Yep.
That is a perfect. Actually, you can still get great
I was
results.
gonna say, as
in
a
that
working
priority.
professional, I still shoot it sometimes.
I was gonna say I
It's
shoot
faster.
it when it's not my family. I
Yeah.
shoot it
Yeah.
aperture priority almost
It's so
all the
much
time.
faster.
So
So much faster.
still manipulating
Yeah,
absolutely.
ISO all the time,
Yep.
and
Yes.
different things,
Yes.
but it works great for me.
Oh,
I was gonna
yes.
say, like, the cool thing about it is like you have the knowledge and understanding of how to fully manually manipulate things, but like you also have the wisdom to know that you don't have to at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Well-
there are
Which is
some
important.
times where speed and efficiency are also a great thing.
Yeah.
And because I try to lean more towards the documentary type.
Yeah, you're
I
firing off things happening.
Yeah, I want to be ready all the time to be
Absolutely.
taking all those little in between shots.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's where
you learned, started in film, then got your first digital camera, took a class,
took a class.
got out of auto.
Yeah. And just kept taking pictures of my own babies. And then
Yeah.
as I started meeting other moms with
Right.
young kids, I'm like, hey, let me practice on your babies.
Yeah, let me take pictures of your kids.
Yes.
And so then, we'd come in the backyard and we'd practice and
Yep.
whatever and have fun. And then all of a sudden, like, I never thought that I would have a photography business. Like, that was never a dream.
When did you
of
make
mine.
that transition?
Yeah. When did you make it a business?
It kind of like just rolled into happening. So
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden, people were like, hey, can you take pictures
Yep.
of my family? And
That is such a natural progression.
it's like, well, I don't know what to charge
Nope.
for that or how to do that
I
or
guess I
any
can, sure.
part of that. So
Sure, I guess I can.
my husband runs a business. He was a great resource in figuring all that
Oh, yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But yeah, charge $35 for a session.
Yeah, right.
So I did a lot of that for a lot of
Yeah.
years. I've been doing this for it's been probably 11 years since I
Wow.
first took money
Sure.
from someone, but like $35.
Right,
you
right.
know?
yeah, but
At that point in time, you're a working professional.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
well, by definition, absolutely.
Yeah, by definition, you're a working professional at that point in
But
time.
yeah, the more I got into it, the more I realized I was not prepared
True.
to run a business. And that is still probably the hardest part for me.
By far.
Well, it's because you're an artist.
Yeah.
As
I
artists,
very
we
much
struggle.
have the art brain,
Yes.
not the business brain.
We've talked about that quite a bit. It's a challenge because, I mean, the artist side wants things to be so creative, so expressive, and you'll do it. You'll pay if you have to do it, but the business side brain's like, no, we have to be able to eat too.
It hurts me sometimes, the business side.
Oh, yeah.
It is by far the hardest part for me. So
Yeah. Well, so if I'm listening to the timeline though, you've been taking money, you said, for photography for 11 years, but you started taking photos 20 years ago. So that means you were learning, crafting, and honing skills
For 9 years.
For 9 years. That's something that we talked about that with Jennifer, a bit, right? And it's something that I think is really important. And I think it's important to do that free and even heavily discounted, right? Work because you're learning.
Yeah, you're still learning.
And even when I was charging $35, it was because people were like, "Please let me pay you something."
They're
And I'm
giving
like,
tips at that point in time.
Absolutely.
I still wasn't sure
Yep.
anybody should be paying me to do any of it.
Yeah.
You know, so that was.
But I think
out
that
of their
shows
kindness.
Yeah, but I think that shows that you cared about your craft enough and you still understood that you were in your learning process. I think a lot of times it's so easy to, and we see it all over the nation and within this niche specifically. Like there are some people who I would say may jump into charging a little too early.
Yeah.
You know, because it's very tempting. It can be a very lucrative industry.
Yeah.
Even as a beginner. To go out there and start charging for work. But I would encourage, again, beginners, and I think I mentioned this even in Jennifer's episode, spend some time honing, practicing, because the minute you start charging is the minute that you are putting yourself under the microscope.
Yeah.
And
It's
good or bad.
intimidating.
Yeah, good
Listen,
or bad. Like you're putting yourself under the microscope.
I think you gotta crawl
Yeah.
before you can run.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
All those things.
I can agree with that.
And one of the, like, to me, those first few sessions, right, where you're not taking photos of just your family, right? You're like, there's pressure, or at least there was for me. And it's like, you do not need
There's
that
still
added.
pressure.
Yes, there is. There is.
Bonnie, you're the queen of family photography. There's no pressure for you.
Oh yeah, there is.
It gets
there is.
less, but like if you care, like if you genuinely care, like it's always there.
Well, and I think for me, that's part of it because I care so much.
Yes.
Like it is my art.
Yeah.
It's part of what is my being. So
What I'm
like,
trying to do for this family
You
is
feed so
like,
much into
it's important
Yes.
to me. So I want it.
But starting
perfect.
out, I guess to circle back on that, it's like you don't need that added variable of a dollar
Monetary
being,
pressure.
Oh, still sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could just do this and not charge any money because you could be more creative or
you
something
can try
fails
things.
or whatever.
Yeah, you can
but-
try things.
Yes.
But it actually, I mean, when my kids were little, I probably needed the money more because I needed a babysitter.
Yeah.
And, I was away from them, so somebody needed to be with them.
Sure.
And that's a hard balance
It is.
to find. So that was a lot of what my husband and I talked about. Like, if you're not going to be with the family, what is this?
Yeah.
What does it cost?
Yeah.
To
To
make that happen.
Yeah, to make it work.
Yeah.
So how did you? So I've already gotten some nuggets in this discussion so far, but how did you ultimately end up at the style of photography that you find yourself shooting and enjoying the most today? On the outside looking in, you seem to be a family photographer,
Yes.
right?
Family photographer and senior photographer.
Yes.
So
How did you end up finding that as essentially your niche?
Yeah.
so family probably is where I started, and then it's moved into senior work too.
Yeah.
But
And you have blatantly stated that you don't do weddings. I saw that in a recent post. But you did do a cool wedding session.
I did.
Yeah.
It was super fun and super creative, and but no pressure of actual wedding day.
So we actually went to school with one of the people in that couple that you shot.
Yeah, Tiffany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tiffany.
Yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
right.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's a cool session.
She's amazing.
Yes.
So, it was super fun. She reached out and said, "Will you do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." If there's no pressure of the actual wedding
not
day,
the actual wedding day.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting that first kiss.
Yeah. Don't have to worry about my SD card failing and losing everything.
No, I can't. Way too much pressure for me.
Same.
And I've done a few here
Yeah.
or there, like for friends and family, and just the whole aspect of like you end up being the wedding coordinator
Yeah.
too, and
Yes.
the time
Yep.
person, and
It's a lot.
it's just too much for me. But it was super fun to change things up a little and shoot Tiffany and AJ.
So you ended up with family.
So family, and I think my main, when I started, it was obviously my kids were my muse.
Yeah.
But it turned into more of like, I didn't want them to look at me. Like I wanted to capture like their chubby little toes as they stood up on their toes to reach into the toy box.
Candid moments.
Yes, the more candid moments. And then as I started taking pictures for my friends, I wanted the mamas to be in the pictures really bad. And
you had that perspective.
That was that was important to me. I'm like, nobody needs to be dressed up. Just come bring your kid to the backyard and I want you to be in the pictures too. So that was important for me for the aspect of moms being in the pictures with their families and just being really authentic and true to what you would normally wear and what they
how you
like
look at your house on a Tuesday.
That was important to me. And, you know, as a kid, looking back at the pictures that my parents have, those are my favorite ones.
Absolutely.
By far.
It's like, oh, that's the couch. And you can smell the couch when you're looking at the pictures. And
that's,
I remember what the kitchen floor felt like under my feet and different things like that.
You remember how that couch smelled?
Yeah. Seriously.
That's what is so powerful with a photo. And like, I love, you know, when you actually, you know, get dressed up, you put effort specifically into a session, there's something for that, but there's also like such great, I mean, I hate to overuse the word power, but like literally documenting not necessarily the mundane, but the average, the everyday, because
if I could really do that always, that's what I would love to do.
And ultimately. I can see that in your work that's what you enjoy.
That is for sure.
I think too, though, even in like family sessions, like I remember, so Melissa Hankins, who we've had here on the podcast, very good friend of ours. You shoot with Mel a lot now. Incredible. Some of my favorite images from we did a family session with her a while back. Some of my favorite images from that set were us not even posed. It was her just documenting our candid moments of us screaming at the kids, trying to get them to line up the right way. And like, those are so hilarious because Lil Buster, my youngest, he's there picking his nose in one of them. And like, that's just who he is.
Totally.
That's just who he is. He picks his nose. Like he's a booger eating dude.
If I see a kid picking their nose, I'm always snapping.
Yeah, it's a snap. Like, well, those are my favorites though, because that's real life.
It's real life. But
and you can even months down the road, you can appreciate that. But think about years down the road, how you're going to appreciate that. So,
well, that puts you back in back in the day, and there's this big push even on the video side. Like nothing was recorded or photographed with the purpose of social media wasn't a thing. It was literally capturing this moment just to document this beach trip, just to document this camping trip, just to document your first birthday where you literally look like a birthday cake because you sat in it.
I mean, you smashed your face in one.
All these things, but it puts you in that because it was raw, it was authentic. They didn't care about lighting, it was literally just the documentation of that. Yeah. And so there's something that immediately brings you back to those moments where you had was it you that mentioned the photo books, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the albums. My mom had the same thing. We wore Owen Mills out.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And all of our listeners that don't know what Owen Mills is, just Google it. Google it. That's how you got photos back in the day.
Actually, that's a little bit part of my story too. Kmart had an Olin Mills when we first moved here. Kmart had an Olin Mills.
Yes, it did.
I love photography. Hadn't had my kids photographed. We went to Kmart Olin Mills.
Been there a few times.
We all left crying.
Yep.
And what other way is there to leave? She was trying to get my 3-month-old to lay on the back of my 3-year-old, and it was not going to work. And we all left crying. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this different.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized really, truly, documenting the days and the authenticness of the day is where my joy was.
My Nana still has 4 years specifically that I remember on her wall of Olin Mills family photos. And I know in one, I was in 5th grade, about to be 6th grade. My mom had just horribly cut my hair. Sorry, Mavis, it was bad.
Everybody has a bad haircut Olin Mills picture.
Exactly. But and
didn't.
I'm in a green sweater. I was fed up. I was so fed up. I had my arms behind my back. I was like, I don't want to be in this family photo. And now I look at it, I'm like, that is hilarious seeing that again, because I can instantly put myself back in that mood that I was in with my Mavis bowl cut.
Listen, that's something that speaks to the power of our memories, though. Like you mentioned something that kind of resonated with me, and honestly, even like music can do this for me. I hear a certain song or I see a certain photo, and you said you could smell the couch.
Well, it's
I'm
a sense of nostalgia.
but like you immediately are like right back.
It's like
so
a portal.
vividly.
Yes.
You're so
Transports you
right back
back.
there in that moment. You're like, oh man, I can literally smell the inside of that cupboard. You know, like whatever.
I can smell the inside of that Kmart as you walk by the cafe to get to the Olin Mills.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but like that's so powerful. And
that's my goal, is that when the families look at the pictures that that it does take them to a place or makes them feel something.
Yeah,
So
that's always my goal too. Like, right, you know, do I want you to enjoy the photo once you see it delivered? Absolutely. But I'm also like, I've got the forethought in my mind of like, no, I'm thinking 15 years down the road.
Yeah.
When y'all pull these out of some trunk or something, right? I don't know how we're going to.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so
Hopefully.
gone are the days, unfortunately, of pulling the trunk of Kmart sleeves out that have all the 4x6s in them
Yeah.
and 5x7s.
I mean, I hope that we will, and 20 years from now, have something
I still pull them out of my
tangible.
parents' house.
So are you this is a big topic. Are you a big printer?
Yes.
Big advocate for printing your work?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
Now, so with my pricing, I have like a digital package and then a package that comes with an album
Ah, okay.
and some prints. And that's really,
That's the one you want people to get.
that's the only one I want people to get.
Listen, you
Oh,
need to
there's
see the
something to
value here.
feeling.
Yeah.
There's something to feeling.
I want them to have
Yes.
something tangible at the end,
Yeah.
not just a new Facebook profile picture.
Right.
So this is an interesting subject because, and you're going to kill me for this. So I've been photographing since 2017, and it wasn't until last year that I printed a photo of mine. So that was 6 years worth of shooting.
I think there's some of my personal work, it is hard for me to print.
It is, but once I finally did,
Then it's like, oh,
and you feel it, it's like, oh my gosh, because it does. It takes you back to those 5x7s and those 4x6s that you pull out of the trunk in the Kmart sleeve. And I was holding a piece of work that I did, and I was just like, wow.
yeah,
This
I
is the
have
best
not
feeling.
been doing this.
Yeah, this is the best feeling I've ever had in photography, and it wasn't a wonderful picture by any means. Like it was pretty
It's just
mundane.
something tangible.
I
But
think
it was tangible.
I think it becomes a lot more art at that point.
It does.
To like, you know, the switch is literally flipped at that point. Like, oh no, this is art. Like it's always art, but like that slaps you in the face when you see your print. You
Well,
know
I
what
feel
I'm
the
saying?
same way when I get negatives back from the lab. Like whenever F32 sends me my sleeve full of negatives back, it's that same feeling. You know, I'm holding them up to the light, and I'm just like, it's a real piece of silver with an image on it. You know,
And
it's
what
wild.
That's what I hope the clients think too.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
have something to hold, like, oh, this is art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is important. This is why I invested in this.